Hey guys, welcome back to the Detour Live. We've got another all-star panel. Not talking about Johnny Trevorrow, but we've got the voice of cycling, Phil Liggett, and the general director of the Flanders Classic, Scotty Sunderland. Fantastic to have you on the show, boys. I'll start with you, Scotty Sunderland. How are you travelling, mate, since we last spoke to you a couple of months ago? Oh, that good. Yeah, Mike's. We've got to unmute your mic. I think there's a connection problem. Oh,
sorry.
There you
First
go.
time I've done this.
Hello, Scott.
No, I'm good. Thanks, Dan. And hi, John. Hi, Phil. How's it going?
Good.
Yeah, we are well, mate. We are well. Yeah.
No, it's all going well over here. Thanks, Dan. I think a little bit better than what Australia's. Is it 18 months lockdown for Australia now?
Oh, feels like that. It definitely feels like that.
Well, on and off, it has been exactly. So I'm lucky. I'm in Geelong, so we're not in lockdown, but the city of Melbourne, where Dan is, and we're lucky to have Dan on air today because he's had his jab, and he's not real well. It's knocked him around a little bit.
Nah, it's okay. It was fine. I was just a bit tired. So a bit sore in the left arm, but yeah, I got the Pfizer, so. Yeah, get it done. And if anyone out there is contemplating, I would have taken anything. AstraZeneca, Pfizer, just get it in the arm, get it done. Because the sooner we do, the sooner we can move forward. So,
exactly.
Do it.
Exactly, everybody. We're seeing that in Europe here, guys. We're seeing it in the figures here. There's still cases, people getting COVID. But even the people who have had the jabs, it's less damaging. It's a lot less people getting into hospitals, and there's far fewer deaths, which is the most important thing.
Where are you, Scott? Are you in Belgium?
Yeah, in Belgium, in Ghent, Belgium. I think you know that.
I love it well.
Yeah.
I lived there for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've heard you tell me about it. It's a beautiful city.
I love it.
Yeah,
it's a shame the beer's no good. Just joking.
I remember there was a bar there that had 100 beers.
Yeah, it's still there.
And still there. And
it took me a couple of days.
It took me a couple of days to get through them all, I can tell you.
I can't believe it took a couple of days.
And just next to it, you've got the druppelkot, which is like shots. So they do like Geneva shots there and those sorts of things. So you can. That's right next to it. So they've also got about 100 different types of short drinks that you can have.
Right on the canal, and you get pissed and you fall in the canal. Yep, I know exactly the place. Sensational.
But you won't die of drowning if you fall in a Belgian canal. I can tell you that.
I think they've cleaned them up. I remember when we used to live in the Casamatan we used to walk across a canal on our way into town when we walk into town or ride into town or whatever. And it was a few K out, but it was out near the downport there. But the canal just near us was really just a bit of a sewer pit. It was terrible. And I remember there was Peter de Longueville, Smelly his nickname was, and we had an argument over something. I grabbed him. I had him hanging over the edge of the barrier towards that canal, and he said, "No, don't let me go. If I go in there, I will die." And he probably would have too. I should have let him go, but anyway, I didn't.
What the hell are you talking about?
Peter Lovely, he's dead now anyway, so he didn't make it through.
So what are the big? Obviously, Scotty, Belgium are obsessed with cycling. Is their obsession still on that boy prodigy Remco Evenepoel? Are they still think he's going to be the next Eddie Merckx? Because I see, did he win the Tour of Denmark recently? Or
yeah, look, Remco's a pure talent. We've seen this from his World Championships in the juniors in Austria, where he then went straight on to become a professional rider. He's won just about every stage race he's started, including the Tour of Denmark last week. Amazing breakaway, and then he capped it off with the time trial.
Lap the field.
Yeah, that's something, especially when it's not a criterium. So look, he is the big wonder boy. I'm really, vigilant of not putting those sorts of labels onto young riders. But I think he's still got a long way to go, and people start saying the next Eddie Merckx and that. And I said, well, my opinion, let him win a Tour de France, a Milan-San Remo, a Tour of Italy, and a number of other races first, and then we can actually start to say. But once he's done all that, then we can sort of say, yeah, okay, maybe he's going to get there.
I thought it was crazy to whack him into the Giro first race back after breaking his leg and everything. I just thought it didn't make a lot of sense. Lefebvre is normally pretty smart with things, but I thought he stuffed up on that one.
Yeah, look, that's my feeling as well. I thought it was too early for him, particularly when there's so many other nice races of a week long that he could have done, like Romandy and Dauphiné and Tour of Switzerland. I think he could have any number of one of those races he could have done. Potentially one would have been a lot better for his mental health and self-esteem, and then would have been a great pathway through to the Olympics and Vuelta and the World Championships. But obviously, team boss is a team boss, and it's up to Patrick to make those calls. And they must have had the performance or the ideas around it to back up their decision to let him do the Giro.
What is the culture like in Belgium? Will they be patient and they've got big raps on him, or is it a bit like Australia, like they're ready to chop the poppy down if it doesn't perform?
Well, Remco didn't come over too well to the general public, or at least to the people who are the real cycling enthusiasts and who do have some knowledge about it from the Olympics. So Remco's statement straight after the road race saying, oh, yeah, look, I couldn't really be up there, so I had a crack, tried to do something, couldn't do it, so then I sort of put it all into neutral and wait for the time trial. If Remco wasn't there, or if he did, first of all, did a good race and purely set himself to help Wout van Aert, or if he chose not to do the road race and they had somebody like Turns in there, Dylan Turns, who did such a great tour and could have been there for Wout van Aert, might have been the deciding factor of Wout van Aert becoming Olympic champion. So there were a few questions raised about Remco and his team spirit towards the national team there. So there's a big interview with the national coach coming in the Worlds, because the Worlds are here in Flanders, in Leuven, starting in Antwerpen, in less than a month away. There's a few questions raised on who will be the team leader. Will there be absolute one team leader, or will be shared leadership for the Belgium team? And the national coach has said Wout van Aert will be the one and only leader, and Remco Evenepoel has yet to get his place in the road race. He will be the time.
Oh, Gabby brought you on, Scott.
Now, Scotty, have you got a role in at the Worlds?
I'm behind the road, behind the scenes role. So I'm doing some of the work in the lead up with the course, and that particularly around the safety issues for the time trials and road races, etc. But my main function is to keep our other races going for next year, which we've gone from 6 men's races in the beginning of the year to 6 men's and 6 women's. But Flanders Classics also acquired in the meantime another 4 races here in Belgium. So I'm a little bit busy at the moment getting 2,000.
What are they? What are the races you've acquired, mate?
The one I can mention is the Ronde van Limburg, which was our first year running this year. So we're looking at that again for next year and possibly date change. And then we have the 3 new races other than that, which will be announced in the coming months.
We won't tell anyone. You can tell.
There's nobody listening.
So the 3 established races, but they're not going to be World Tour races. We're definitely trying to build the level of existing races, which are monuments or World Tour, and then we're wanting to develop the Pro Series races underneath those to support and strengthen the races, the one-day classics here in Belgium.
Now, as Dan mentioned, you're race director of the Flanders Classics, which is just an amazing thing for us Aussies to think we've got an Australian in that role. But of course, you're just as much a Belgian as an Australian. You've been living over there that long. But you are also race director of the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Classic. Not only that, you were very instrumental in the beginning of the event and the design of the course and all of that. But haven't been able to run it because of the pandemic. So what's the latest situation with the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race?
Well, both the Vis Victoria for the Cadell Evans Grosvenor Road Race and the South Australian Tourism Company for the Tour Down Under, we're ready to go. Of course, we've got that little thing called COVID and quarantine, which is the big hurdle for us at the moment. I know South Australia are working very closely, or trying to be working closely with the health department there to see exactly what the quarantine is going to be, because that's the big hurdle for teams to want to come out to Australia. If it's going to be a 14-day quarantine, okay, but what will that 14-day quarantine look like? Is that 14 days just sitting in a hotel room with no windows on a home trainer, or is that 14-day quarantine where they can train outside for 5-6 hours a day? That information has not been confirmed yet. So until we do get that information, it's really difficult to get teams' interest or gauge their interest and confirmation that the teams will actually participate in Australia. So unfortunately, guys, it's out of both Tour Down Under's and Cadell Evans Grosvenor Road Race's hands at the moment. It's with government.
Yeah, and I know it's similar with the Bay Crits, which is not quite as many international riders. But, well, I just thought I'd whack it in here because, we are trying to get the Bay Crits back. And you've been doing such a good job, Scott. I reckon you're almost at the level of become the race director of the Bay Crits. But we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
You're getting some good experience now, Scott. I think you might be able to.
You know what? I was just looking at my CV the other day, John, and I was thinking that's one box I haven't ticked yet.
That's what's missing. That's the one.
Yeah. Very complicated, that hot dog circuit on the car park there in Geelong, mate. Very technical.
Wait till you get to Williamstown.
Hey, I saw in the news, Pogacar, Iffy, 6 million euros is going to be getting a season now. What I want to ask, and what sort of effect does this have on inflation in the sport of cycling? When obviously with COVID, teams are struggling just to get sponsors. Does this have any effect? Or do you think it's
always been the case?
Let the ball run.
The superstars of cycling have always been paid out of the ballpark compared to what the normal athlete gets. And there's been the Eddie Merckx's. Okay, it wasn't near as much money. The Bernard Innos. These guys are special for a reason. Pogacar is a once in a lifetime athlete, as are a few others. But Wout van Aert, I don't know what his wage is, but I'd be paying him something similar if I had to. And you've got this young Tom Pidcock coming through. He's going to be in that same league. So these guys, I don't think it really changes what's happening for everybody else. That's my thought.
Look, I mean, if you really want to put it in perspective, we look those riders you just mentioned, Iffy, to the rest of the peloton. But then let's look at football. We just had Messi race on PSG. I mean, come on, guys. This is like, talk about out of the ballpark. In the comparison to cycling, that's huge.
Did you see Messi's handkerchief or the tissue when he was doing that press conference and he was crying? He dropped it, and there's a bid for it for $1 million. They've auctioned it off. They said it's got his DNA in it. They reckon they could one day, clone him or I don't know, whatever.
And that's a week's salary, because that's exactly what he's getting now. $1 million a week.
Yeah.
To play football.
It's phenomenal.
I think with Pogacar getting 6 million, I think the possibility they're going to start screaming again about salary caps, etc., to try and level the playing field a bit. But it's going to have to come, of course, because he's about 2 million more than anybody else is getting on the circuit.
I think the biggest thing there, Phil, is it's an interesting topic you bring up about salary caps, because we're talking about a lot here in Europe. I don't think it's for one particular rider, but it's definitely budget caps on teams. I mean, we've got Ineos is around about 50 million now. I think Quickstep and Jumbo Visma are about the next two is around about the 28-30 million. And then we quickly declined down to there. But it was a point when I was a race director and we were at CSC, and we were bordering the 18 to 20 million, and we were like the biggest team. So we've gone up to 50 million now, guys, from 2008 when we won won the Tour de France with Carlos Sastre. And we had a bomb of a team, with Cancellara, O'Grady, the Schlecks, Carlos Sastre, of course. You know, that's some big high earners at that time in that team.
Yeah, ambush poor old Cadell. Yeah, I remember it well.
Yeah, we know. We know.
That was Tomo's fault with his damn dog. That's what put Cadell off the race.
Exactly right. Bit me.
Sorry, mate.
No, you are right. It's a salary cap. It's just these guys are able to have so many top talent riders in their teams. I mean, that's what's that's stopping them. They're able to perform in every race they go to.
But this year we've seen at least that you can't buy your way to victory. I mean, as we did with Chelsea many years ago, then everybody caught up in the Premiership. We're also seeing Ineos, who coming up to the Tour de France, were ruling the roost. And now people are riding well to beat them. And it's been some terrific bike racing this year. And I've enjoyed it because the days of the robots controlling the head of the peloton, I think, might be behind us, which I think is pretty cool.
Look, I think you are right, and I think it's partly to some of the course designs are changing a little bit. The riders are thinking out of the box now, and I think that's also coming with the teams. They're daring to break the mold and do things differently. And I think the new wave of the Van Aerts, the Pidcocks, and don't forget Mathieu van der Poel, their approach to it is completely different. I mean, if I had suggested to do something in my time, which I tried to do, combine doing a little bit of track racing and so forth, you would look down on. Yeah. And no, you have to do this. You have to ride around in 53.11 all the time, and you've got to get strong. I mean, we've seen such a big mindset change from the 90s and 2000s to where we are today, and that out of the box thinking. I mean, look at Rolly, who went on did his last race as Liège-Bastogne-Liège, was going to the Tour de France without racing.
That's right.
So, I mean, if you'd suggested that to Greg LeMond, Phil, I mean, when he started the Giro, Greg, he was like 20 kilos too heavy, but he'd come and win the Tour de France.
Yes.
Well, you're talking about budgets, say, with Ineos 50 mil. 80% of your revenue comes from Tour de France. So you need to perform at the Tour de France. Whereas from what Pogacar has shown, he's one of the only guys that can win it over the next 3 to 5 years if he stays healthy, and Roglic maybe and a couple of others. But if you've got that much budget and you've been behind the scenes, Scotty, that must be frustrating when you're like, oh, man, if we're going all chips in for the Tour to get that value and we can't get the guys that we really want, is that when you just got to get the checkbook out and just keep trying to smash offers? And, I mean, where do you go?
I don't know where they're going to get them.
It's done now.
I think once you get to that sort of budget, it's really using Brailsford's terms, it's the marginal gains and ensuring that you actually do get the results you need, and the riders do perform. They just lost chances there, with those crashes, and I think we have to come back to the safety of bike races. And this is getting, digressing on another topic, but when you've got so much money invested in that one set of team or one riders, a group of riders like Ineos, I would have liked to actually know roughly what they had there on the road, probably in more than 10 million plus, and they all go down in the first 3 days of the race. That's pretty scary. So how do you
crash?
Yeah, through crashes, and then so if they're going down in crashes in those races, then you have to start thinking, so what can we do to protect our investment?
Well, I reckon one thing they do have to do. Oh, sorry, mate. One thing they've got to do. We're talking about it. We've kicked this around. They've got to bring in, I reckon it's a 5K rule. Could even be 7 or 8K rule, where that is where the timing for the stage is done, and then let the on the flat stages, and then let the sprinters sprint it out after that, because it would absolutely change what's happening in these frenetic finales into towns with roundabouts and corners. It doesn't make sense. Even the 3K rule really doesn't change anything. It only happens if you fall off, because you can't just sit up, because you lose the time just the same. So nothing has changed. It doesn't mean anything.
Look, it's a tough one, John, because there's quite a few of us in different groups have sat down and thought about it. And, if you actually break it down, it's only the Grand Tours in the first 5 days of the Grand Tours when you have those sprint stages. They're the most difficult. You probably can bring in Tirreno Adriatico and also Paris-Nice as 2 more stage races. Apart from these, these 5 races, I think pretty much everything else is not too bad. But definitely those ones there, you need to start thinking of, should it be at 7 or 10 kilometers before the finish on certain stages? And that needs to be deemed well and truly beforehand. So if you're looking at doing a sprint stage in a Grand Tour, those stages need to be presented to the UCI. You need the external company to be looking at that safety commission, and they should do the assessments of that stage. And through that assessment, they should deem whether it should be the GC should be taken at 5 kilometers to go or 10 kilometers to go. And that, to me, is the only real safe way of doing this, and also, staying within sporting, spirit, I suppose, and of the race.
Furious agreement.
However, to bring you back to the raison d'etre, which is the Vuelta a España, we wouldn't have a man sitting 5 seconds behind who's won the Vuelta for the last 2 years if we'd applied those rules this year.
Yeah.
So it's another thing to remember. However, what's the press like for Jakobsen? They must be going berserk in Belgium with the way he's riding.
Yeah, look, I think for everybody, that's just a happy ending, isn't it? For everyone to see where he came from last year in Tour of Poland, from that horrific crash to where he is today. And I mean, you can't wish the guy anything better than what he's been able to achieve. All the hard work and the family commitments, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, he's gone from practically almost staring in the barrel of never racing again to come back to winning ways in such a big stage,
I haven't actually seen a close-up of him. Is he disfigured by this crash at all? On his face? His
facial structures have slightly changed because of all the operations and surgery he's had, and also some scarring, etc. I mean, pretty much he lost all his front teeth and all the gums, and some of his jaw and his cheekbones was all fractured. So probably over the years it will settle down, but as the bones all settle down and the healing continues. But
I've noticed a difference. I'm only going by photos. You've probably seen him up live, Scotty. But I noticed a few months back when he was first back racing earlier this year, you could see a lot of movement in his face. But now he's actually looking a lot better. So it's actually changing quite quickly. I saw his interview after the stage last night. He looked great. But he and Philipsen are easily the 2 quickest here. So I think they're going to be fighting these flat stages out for the whole race, which is going to be great to watch because there's not much between them. And it should be great.
And
before we get into the stage,
a 1 point separation in the points competition. It's great.
Fantastic.
This is a poor sprint field, let's be honest, but these are 2 world-class sprinters for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Damar as well, who's not quite there.
He's not really firing. He's not having a great year.
Damar's on a real low this year. He's on a real low. I'm not sure if he's had COVID during the winter or at the beginning of the season, but he's really struggled to find form, hasn't he?
Yes, he has.
Yeah.
And I quite like him in some ways. Yeah.
He's a really, really nice guy. Actually. He's really
I was just going to say, before we dissect the stage, which we should do just about now, but I just wanted to mention something happened yesterday or overnight. Ashton Lambie becoming the first man to break 4 minutes for the 4,000 metre pursuit, which is amazing. It's and it was nice when I was reading his stuff. He's been inspired, he said, by Roger Bannister, who was the first man to break the 4 minute mile. So I thought that was a really great analogy. But so he did a 3:59.93.
Wow, that's quick
in Mexico last night. Yeah, well, Garner had the record at 4:01, so he's the first man to ever go under 4 minutes, which is sensational, And a boy from Nebraska. He was a gravel rider from Nebraska, and now here he is. He's the world record holder for 4,000 meters.
Sounds like a reincarnation of Graham O'Brien to me. I mean, I've never heard of him.
Well, he broke the world record about a year or so ago. He got down to about 4:05 before Garner started knocking the hell out of it from him. So he's been around for a while, specialising in the pursuit. But but I like the way he said inspired by Roger Bannister, who used to he was first man, and I can remember because I'm old enough the great races between Bannister and John Landy, who was our state governor in Victoria.
Absolutely.
And they were fighting to be the first man to break the 4-minute mile. It ended up being Roger Bannister. And they had the miracle mile when the two of them raced for the Commonwealth Games, and Bannister beat him for the gold medal in the Commonwealth Games. They both broke 4 minutes. But anyway, I'm digressing.
Very good information.
I thought I'd whack that in.
I'm glad you did.
So you've done some research, Iffy.
Yeah. That didn't work.
All in there.
Amazing what rabbit holes you go down when you start Googling, isn't
That's where the filing cabinets are for John.
That's right. So what's your takeaways from stage 5? If a few crashes, obviously Taramay loses the jersey, Bardet's crashed. What do you think?
Yeah, I really felt for Bardet. Well, gee, it was a big crash. It reminded me of that terrible crash at the Tour de France. At least half the field went down. It was right up the front too. The Danish champion, what's his name, Schmidt, I think it was. He just hit a wheel. Hit the wheel. Down he went, and it was just like someone dropped a bomb about 5 wheels back from the front, and there were riders down everywhere. And I thought, which I actually saw written a few places, that Taramay needed a bike change because he took forever to get going, and that's why he ended up losing the 2 and a bit minutes. But he didn't. He just said it took him that long to get up because there was that many people laying on top of him. And even though we saw a thing, we would talk on the radio, I don't know what he was doing. If he had I don't know what, he didn't get moving as quick as he could have. He was handling it. Finally, one of his teammates came up to him and they get going. And I noticed that your young nephew was with him and swapped a few turns off and come in that group. I think they were 2:30 down or something like that. Yeah. And I tell young Dylan, he's a good young kid, actually. I owe him the biggest apology because me and research don't go well together, and I didn't do enough. I did a story in the local paper, 10 Australians, and I left him out.
Australia's biggest paper.
He's telling me that. He's really dark on you about that.
One of the world's biggest, but I'm going to make it up. I'm doing a special story on it.
I was talking with Dylan last night. He said that he went down. I said, "How you doing?" He goes, just a couple of bruises, but no real problems out of it, like no knees or anything else like that." But he's hoping he's probably going to have a little bit of a look around today and tomorrow for breakaways, and then it's already planned for him to look at possible stage wins next week to go on breakaways, to hunting for stages. So we should see him a little bit more in the action coming up. This week's sort of not a lot going on. Today's stage, you just got that pretty much flat with the last 2 kilometre kicker up to the finish. So who knows what's going to present itself.
It's pretty tough, everything. I reckon it'll be interesting. We'll talk about that shortly, what we think is going to happen tomorrow. But I reckon it could be a break. I don't reckon that Trek are strong enough to defend all day, and the sprinters won't bother because they won't get over that. It's quite a tough finish. So I reckon a break could go away again today. That's my thoughts, but we'll see. Yeah.
It'd be interesting too, because it'd be a bit of a test to see how the likes of Yates and Rollick go, because both those guys will do well on that finish today if it's all together.
Yeah, we were talking with last time when we were talking with Julian Dean. I said, "Gee, is it just too hard for Michael Matthews because he did so well in that stage 2 in the Tour de France." With that really hard finish where he went second up there. And he said, look, I think it's actually harder. But looking at Michael, looking at the body language now of Michael, who was going so well a couple of days ago, he's not looking so good at the moment. He didn't look good yesterday. They brought him to the right spot, but he didn't have it. And I just wonder what's going on with Michael. But anyway, that's another story.
Yeah.
He just looks like he's getting frustrated. And, Bling's a very unique character. He puts a lot of pressure on himself. And I just think, particularly when the sprints and, you're not getting quite the results you want, even though, the other guys are clearly faster, it's hard. And I think,
Just
it's been a long year as well.
For 1 second, guys. There's a heron landed at the fish pond. Won't be a second.
Okay, mate.
I love it.
Oh, well, we'll bring him back in when he comes back.
Someone said he had a bird brain, but I don't know about that.
Oh, he loves it. He bloody loves it. But yeah, I mean, it's tough, I think, for Blink, because especially when you've had a year where you need that victory, you need that momentum, and then the sort of pressure builds and you get to the last big grandy of the year. Phil's back. It's tough. It's tough because, particularly when the team around you feel like you're letting people down, and they're just gonna keep positive. But
well, we see that with Philipsen, mate. I mean, he was getting so frustrated during the Tour de France, but it almost can erode your morale and your motivation, direction on that. So you have to be able to manage it well. And you are right, Dan. Bling has a bit of trouble to keep himself on track because of his frustrations of getting the results. And I mean, that applies for everybody, to be honest. But definitely Philipsen's been able to turn it around. And I mean, he's one of the few Tour de France guys who's turned up at the Vuelta and turned up in good form. So, and Philipsen had a big year. He'd done the classics at the beginning of the year. So he's really, doing some stellar results.
I agree with you, Scotty. I reckon Philipsen is a superstar. And he handled the Tour de France really well. He just couldn't quite get Cav, but he got on the podium 6 times. Now, to do that, and he almost, the last stage, he was still right in there, but Wout van Aert did the miracle thing and beat him. But, sensational. And to come back, as you say, after a really tough Tour de France and be straight in and winning the stage here. And there was 1, 2. So amazing. And they're going to be great. But, Bling is too hard on himself. He was never going to outsprint those 2 guys.
No.
He's not, getting a third was fantastic. And that was an absolutely brilliant sprint. He did everything right. They were just too quick. Yeah. So he shouldn't get too frustrated because he's going to win a stage here as long as he keeps his head together. Yeah. He's going to win a stage here in one of these tougher days. Like even today, he is a chance. If all goes well, we saw when he beat Cadell up that really tough finish in the Giro a few years back, what he did on stage 2 of Tour de France this year. This is the type of thing he can pull one out. He can do it. It was fun. Maybe it's a tad too tough for him, I don't know. But there will be stages in this Giro where Philipsen and Jacobsen won't be there, and he will be.
It's about change. It's okay. You see what your competition's like and who it is. I mean, if it wasn't a Cavendish, then it was a Wout van Aert or Caleb, although he wasn't there for long. You always got competition for someone, so it's about changing what you're doing to fit the competition. So if you're coming up against 2 quick sprinters like Jacobsen and Philipsen, you need to do a change of tactics. How are we going to disrupt their sprint chains, or how are we going to do this? So, or you need to, like you say, change tactics and save the energy from doing those sprints and go for stages which are not so suited to the sprints.
Yeah, exactly.
You must feel for Tarame Iffy losing the jersey with crashing out again.
I really like him. He's been around for a while, a bit of a journeyman. In his early days, it looked like he was going to be one of the big stars. He finished 11th in the Tour de France when he was only about 23. But he never really managed to reach those heights that people were setting for him. But I just liked what he said yesterday. I thought it'd be really dark on the fact that unlucky. Would have probably kept the lead for about a week. He just said, well, I probably would have lost it in a few days anyway. That's bike racing. It was sensational. Yeah. So, I got a bit of time for him. But, yeah, look, it was frustrating. But he did fart around. Look, they waited for a couple of bunches, but he did.
That's how technical analysis says, Scotty.
Well, he gets – okay, it took him a while to get up. But when he got up, I thought he's on the you see, I thought, he's trying to get a bike. But turns out he said, no, my bike was okay. I don't know what he was trying to get. He should have just jumped on the friggin' bike and gone down the road and worry about the rest later, because the guys who took off while he was doing that, they got on. There's a whole group of them, with a couple of Trek guys and Saccone and a few of those. They managed to, because the leaders did the right thing, but it getting 11K, 10K to go. They're not going to do it for long. That group got on, and then they all started going. They were bike racing again. Now, they felt for him, but couldn't wait any longer. And he got within a minute. I think we got to about 50 seconds or something like that. So
it's a long way when you only got 10 Ks to go, mate.
Yeah. No, he wasn't there. But anyway, I felt for him, but I like the guy. I reckon he's
You stop talking. Free Rangers said, should the race have been neutralised to allow the red jersey to rejoin the front of the race?
You can't neutralise it, but the riders did hesitate and they did slow, apparently, from what I heard from a couple of interviews afterwards. There was a bit of hesitance. Should we wait? Should we not? But I think once they all heard that he was standing there, as if he said, dicking around for so long, they realised now the race has got to continue. So, but you can't, from an organisation side of it and from the UCI, and that unless it's the whole field out or pretty much 3/4 of the field out, then you don't neutralise the race.
Hey, the wheel was only, sorry, mate.
So it was only 11K from the finish, wasn't it? I didn't see yesterday.
Yeah. So. It was 11K. It was 11K to go. And look, there have been incidents, as you well know, Scotty. So just to answer Free Ranger a bit further, where they have done it, but normally it's been because the incident was caused by something outside the normal racing conditions, like that sign on the side of the road, with the fan, or that time when Cancellara tried to put it on a hole when they thought oil on the road. If it's something that maybe the organisation of the event feels that they have had some part of what's gone wrong, then you can look at doing something. But 11K to go, Where were two of my teammates? Well, two of them were with him.
Playing on the ground with him.
Two of them waited. Were with him, were standing with him, but I don't know. And they chased. They took a while to get with him. One of them came back.
They finished with him
from the group, and there was two teammates with him, and one of them sprinted for 8th place. I don't know why he didn't go back and join them as well, but anyway. Whatever.
Will Wizard wants to know for Scott, does he have anything to do with my passion, the World Cup cyclocross races run by the Flanders Classics?
I do a little bit around it. Where Flanders Classics has a 10-year agreement with the UCI to run all the World Cups. And so Flanders Classics is looking at expanding the World Cyclocross into global. And there's actually some really cool things happening in the background, which I can't say, but I think it's worthwhile looking at cyclocross. It's going to become a major player up there with track cycling, etc. In the near future. You're going to see growth, and I mean that growth is also a lot of thanks goes to the likes of Pidcock and Matthew Van der Poel, Van Aert, and even Tim Merlier, who's also a cyclocrosser, and a few other young guys coming through. So I think that we're going to see that as a new ground for talent identifying. Identification. So cyclocross we'll see a growth, continued growth, and a lot more backing support in the future.
Well, also the blokes who want to trim up for the classics, like look at Hino and all these sort of guys. They love it. Swear by it for early season form. So,
but it's an enormous sport of its own, isn't it? I mean, Phil, I'm sorry to butt in, but that's what I do. But but the cyclocross back in the old days when I was racing, it was huge in Belgium. It always has it in Holland, Belgium, a little bit in Germany, a little bit in the Scandinavian countries, and Britain, and that was it. There was nowhere else in the world. But now it's become a worldwide phenomenon. It's changing quickly, and it's a sensational sport. It's absolutely sensational. And I love it. They race through a pub. You can't do any better than that.
As good as it gets.
Hey, fellas, cyclocross.
Cyclocross when you're younger, didn't you start off with cyclocross or something in London? Because I know cyclocross was huge in London back in the days.
Yeah. I always rode the winter season. When I lost my shoe in a canal and went home on the back of a motorbike, so I only had one shoe left, I decided I wasn't going to ride anymore. So I stopped.
Because I know from a few of my friends in London there that Paul Smith, the designer, and Banksy designers, a couple of my friends from the music industries around London, they were all into cyclocross.
Yeah. It's a great sport. It's really fabulous, and it's great for the public too, because especially in Belgium, I mean, it's a national sport in Belgium. It's as popular as the summer sport because you've always excelled. Top 3 in the World Championships on occasion. You can't beat that.
Yeah.
So it's a great sport in Belgium, and the enthusiasm, and the Aussies will be happy too because the beer's cold.
Hey, talk about sport in Belgium. Did you watch the hockey gold medal match, Scotty? Australia versus Belgium?
Yeah.
Spewing. Absolutely.
Bloody Belgians.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
I just got a quick one to tell you. Love this, Phil. Back when I had the old bike shop, Bike Power in Geelong, this is going back 20 odd years. I'm working away in the shop, and a guy walks in, English accent, sounds a bit like you actually, Phil, and he asked about a bike, and I looked at him, I said, Eric Stone.
Eric Stone, yes.
Eric Stone, and he'd been British cyclocross champion quite a few times. I'd never met him, but because I used to read all the English cycling magazines, he was often on the front cover. I said, Eric Stone. He said, how could you know that? I said, I read all the cycling magazines. He said, well, I used to read the Australian one, so I know who you are too. Anyway, he moved to Barwon Heads or Ocean Grove, and I just bumped into him a couple of weeks ago. I watched the grandkids running in a cross country, and he had grandkids running in the same cross country. So we caught up and had another chat. A lovely bloke. Yeah.
I still see him all the time when I come over to Australia, and he still drops me the odd note. He stayed loyal to the sport. He comes from Yorkshire area. He's a Yorkshireman. And,
You'll be happy to hear. You'll be happy to hear, Phil, that British cycling is about to invest heavily and promote cyclocross again in the UK, really to relaunch it to what it used to be, what it was. So, it's gaining a lot of traction in various countries, and particularly those countries where it's sort of, dropped a bit, but also in new countries.
Yeah, it's great. And the BMX has also got a big boost from this British cycling now after the results we got in the Olympics. So there's a lot of money coming in there now, boy. And they're going to be popping up all over the place to be 100 best drivers before we know it. Yeah.
But that's what you're sort of getting, Phil, is like, we've got track racing, which sort of flows into road racing, etc. So both been able to do both disciplines. Now we've got BMX, and cyclocross, and we also got gravel and mountain biking. So those are all feeding into one another, and particularly for gravel, which is a new big phenomenon, because pretty much a gravel bike is a cyclocross bike, and if you really want to, you can just put a pair of road wheels in, and you still got the same sort of bike, but you can still go off road or do a cyclocross race.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah.
Do you think, Scotty, that one benefit of COVID is it's given everything a bit of a pause, a rebound, and if you are going to start something fresh, next year when things sort of reset, there's a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, look, with Visit Victoria and the Cadell Evans Grosjean Road Race, we're looking at what opportunities could be on the horizon. We're starting to look at strategies going into 23, 24 and 25. What things will be happening and that. So I think, it's not just in sporting events, but companies in general are working from home, office space, all that sort of stuff. People are looking at where the efficiencies are moving forward, and definitely in the events world, like you say. I think cycling has been a beneficiary from COVID. I was talking to one of the big clothing sportswears for cycling the other day, who sponsors a team, and they've said they've had to expand their production line because their thing was all about making clothing with a quick turnaround of 8 weeks, and they've had to go on and buy more factories and more machineries to be able to keep to that. And so them and all the other bike manufacturers, frames and equipment, that just sales have been through the roof for them.
Yeah, I think it's the trend of our sport is going to go through its best period ever in the next 5 to 10 years. Because we're rethinking the world after COVID. Particularly, we all now know the world will end because of the way we treat it. And so we've got to do something about slowing it down. We'll never stop it, of course, but we've got to slow it down. And cycling is going to be at the forefront in every way. And so we're in for a terrific period, I'm sure of that.
Yeah, I think once the government start realising they need to put a bike path next to the road, next to the footpath, then we're starting to get traction. But that's the sort of thinking that we need to have going forward, and I agree with you. We'll end, Phil. It's just...
well, I'll be gone before it, so there's no problem there.
Jeez, I think on this positive note, I think we need to take a bit of a spell.
Let's liven it up.
All right, let's have a quick word for our great mates at Bike Exchange and the Amy Gillett Foundation.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Life is like a two-way street. It's about consideration and mutual respect. Roads are much the same. However you get around, walk, ride or drive, if we share our roads, we can all be safer. The Amy Gillett Foundation is Australia's peak cycling safety charity. Our mission is for safe cycling in Australia. Our vision is for 0 cyclist deaths. Over the last year, we've seen an enormous increase in people taking up cycling, whether it be for recreation, with the family, commuting, or even to start your own cycling career. We need to do more to make it safer for every cyclist. 20 cyclists every day are hospitalised, and 1 cyclist is killed every 10 days on Australian roads. So, the next time you jump on your bike or hop in your car, remember to practice the 4 C's. Be courteous, calm, considerate and conscientious. Every cyclist's death is preventable, and we all deserve to get home safely. Please donate to help the Amy Gillett Foundation make the roads safer for you and for me.
Thanks again, our great mates at Bike Exchange, and some great messages there. Beautifully voiced by, of course, Phil Liggett from the Amy Gillett Foundation. Now, a quick update on the silent auction. Now, we remind everyone there's a generous donation from the Amilla Resorts in the Maldives. So if you want to check out what they have to offer, amilla.com. It's a poolside villa for 2 adults. And Jason said, look, if you want to bring a couple of kids as well, for 5 nights, breakfast and dinner included, and that's valid till the end of next year. But I'm sure if the restrictions are a bit tricky, we'll be able to work out extending it if you can't get flights in time. But if where are we at with the price? Because it's valued at over 13,500 Aussie dollars.
Yes. So we've got a silent auction running. So at this stage, it's up to $2,500. So it's not going to go over that. It's going to go for a lot more than that. But we've had a couple of bids. Keep them coming. Because it's, as you say, 2 people, the Maldives. We'll show the...
Nice.
I'll show... why don't we do a little bit of a challenge here for you, John? You said you need a voice over that clip. And then you said, I'll have a crack at doing it live. So why don't you have a crack at voicing the Amilla live?
Before I do that, I will at least Google Amilla Resorts and get something to say. At the moment, I was trying to do that. I knew you were going
Talk to the pitches. Talk to the pitches, John. We don't have time
I'm
for you
just
to
going to
go.
get a beer out of
I've
the
got the voice of cycling here. Why don't you get Phil or Scott?
No, you want to do this. Let's
Yeah,
go.
say
Let's
what
cue the
you see.
video.
I wanted to do this.
All right, I'll turn the music down. There you go. Come on, John. Talk to the images.
Oh, am I allowed to talk about that image I just saw? She was.
That was a
gorgeous.
manta ray, John. That was a
the
manta
manta
ray
ray.
transformed.
I was talking about the one just before that, but look at that. Hey, it's so beautiful. You can't even describe it. They are
coral white beaches, lounges by the blue pool. Come on, develop what you see. Ladies provided.
If that beautiful commentary from Iffy doesn't want you to get going over there,
Look, I have to say, it looks an absolutely fabulous place. I really mean it. It really
Tomorrow, I'll be there. Tomorrow, I'll have it all. I'll have the words.
I'm just going to hit you every day with it, mate. This is going to be great. And we've, of course, raising money for the Gillett Foundation, KARIGA.co.za.
You've nailed that word now, Dan.
Yes.
Yeah, well
so
done,
keep donating. And how's it all going, Phil, with the
Gillett
guys?
We're over $18,000. Our target's 35, I think, at the moment. They're hit by COVID pretty bad. The animals, it's not a question of feeding the animals because they're wild. They look after themselves. But of course, we've got rhino, lion, and everything on this huge area. And the problem is the poachers are getting in there. And we just had figures yesterday. Poaching in South Africa has gone backwards because of COVID. Mostly in the Kruger Park. And thankfully, where Gillett is, nothing. But now there's no money into Gillett. We can't afford the anti-poaching unit, the guys who patrol all the time, heavily armed, because the poachers are heavily armed. So this is why this money is actually more important than ever at the moment. Tomorrow, Dan, I'm going to give you a 58-second video taken on.
Yeah, sweet. Do you need Iffy to voice it, or is it all?
No, I did voice it just in case Iffy volunteered. and I'm looking forward to going. Our virtual online gig, which is on the first one's on September the 19th. All the details will be coming up hopefully tomorrow. We're just waiting for Gillett to make the website ready to receive all the votes and all the bids and stuff. Yeah.
Why are people so unkind?
And of course,
be great.
we're going to have some details soon because it's gathering momentum for the Amy Gillett Grand Fondo, Iffy. The Detour, what do they call it? The Detour Peloton. There was some other word they had. Detour Deliverance. Desperates. Degenerates, I think it was. But anyway, we're going to get a group going, and we've got people talking with people to get some kit sorted. So once we have details around that, and that'll be a good little fundraiser as well.
I've got 10 of my dad's army. We got a Tuesdays and Thursday rides. Have all put their hands up. They're doing it. Will Walker is doing it. Dan is actually doing it. Scott, you'll find this hard to believe.
On an e-bike.
On an e-bike, yeah.
It's be like a Kieran. I'll just set the pace at about 60 clicks at the front. It'll be fun.
Yeah,
you need a motorbike for that, not a bloody e-bike.
If you peel off with a lap to go, you'll get away with about 140 kilometers. Yeah,
that's it. That's gonna be interesting. It'll be fun anyway. Hey, we always like when we get guests on, Scotty, to recap the old days. What are your memories of the Tour of Spain, mate? Is there any memories that sort of stand out for you, either as a director or as a rider?
I remember my first Tour of Spain because back in the early 90s, it was still used to be in April, end of April. So then I did Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and then I did Amstel Gold on the Saturday. And then Saturday night, we jumped on the plane and we flew down to Spain to do the prologue on the Sunday night of Tour of Spain. And then we actually started over in Portugal. And then we, because we'd been up there in the snow and everything that year from Liège and Paris-Camembert and the rain and stuff in the spring classics, we get down to Portugal and then we had to wear our arm warmers, not because it was cold, but the sunburn, mate. We were like having stages. I think we averaged 230 kilometres a day for the first 7 days. And this is because before they started limiting the amount of kilometres, because then we used to do 3 weeks, we'd have 4,000 plus kilometres. So, yeah, we just, pretty much just burnt the crisp after day one. And, suntan lotions back those days weren't as good, and neither were the jerseys and that. So the only solution we had was put on arm warmers. So it was black arm warmers on top of sunburn to stop from getting even more sunburn. It was not really pleasant, I tell you. But, you quickly seen which guys were the Spanish riders and which guys were from the north, from the classics riders, because pretty much Buchler, Panasonic, PDM, TVM, Tulip, all these Belgian teams and Dutch teams who just burnt to crisp.
Yeah.
I reckon, just on a side note, Portugal is one of the most underrated countries on the planet. Like, it's fantastic. like Lisbon and stuff. I remember, unbelievable. Portuguese tarts doesn't get any better.
I don't think it's that underrated, really. Not here in Europe. It's a big holiday destination. You try to book here in the summer holiday break, mate.
I mean, simple Australians in among that group where I come from. Country Victoria, underrated.
You're a bit harsh, Dan, talking about the Portuguese women like that.
John.
Yes.
What?
No.
Portuguese pop. Disgrace.
He couldn't let it go, could he, Dan? Couldn't let it go.
If he loves it, he's just sometimes the filter. It's like thought, brain, mouth, blurt. Away we go. But
Tour of Spain is a tricky race, though. I mean, people sort of see Spain as the mountains, but there's a lot of crosswinds there, more so than what you do in the Giro. More, probably even more than what you get in the Tour. As we saw the other day, and that's what made them nervous yesterday too, is because they thought there was going to be more crosswinds. So that's what had all the GC riders forcing to keep up close. But yeah, Phil, we've seen it many times. Crosswinds in the Vuelta, I've experienced it firsthand. It's a tough race, and I remember one year in particular when I was with TVM. We're doing one of the races with crosswinds, one of the stages, and I can't remember where it was. It was down near Granada at that stage. And Rob Harmeling won a stage in Bordeaux in the Tour the year before. So himself and myself were in the front group coming into 20 Ks to go where it all split. And then I was riding, and then I had a Portuguese rider come back to your friends in Portugal then, and he refused to go through in his turn. So I've sort of given him a bit of a push on the hip to force him to keep going, because we're rolling at high speed. And we just had 20-second gap back to the peloton at 10 Ks to go. And he's reached about with his hand, took his hand off the handlebars and grabbed my arm, which almost took me down. And I had Rob Harmeling behind me, who's then clipped my wheel, but he didn't go down. But anyway, it created a big wave and that. So I had a few heated words with him and give him another shove, but less politely this time. And I think he did go off the road. But anyway, while we're having this alteration, met the Portuguese guy in the front, Rob Harmeling and myself, and the other 20 guys, Jesper Skibby and Jan Simons, who's my team, were in the main peloton having problems with another Portuguese guy. So whether Jesper Skibby ended up doing his nut and throwing a bidon at him and everything else, blah, blah, blah. So we get to the finish, it was just chaos, and I did the lead out for Rob Harmeling, and Rob didn't go anywhere. I think actually I repassed him after leading him out, which was a bit of a pity. So the whole day ended up being
nothing worse.
Being terrible, yeah, absolutely terrible. So we're in a car, we're driving back to the hotel and everything else, and I get a massage and everything, and I was telling my swan you about it and everything else, and blah, blah, blah. So after having a massage, I'm walking down to the dinner room, and then my masseur coming up, he goes, "Oh, your mates from Portugal are waiting downstairs," because they happen to be in the same hotel.
Oh, no.
And anyway, he's kept walking up the stairs, and I walked in, and I've came in, and I've opened glass doors, and I see the guy sitting there. I just couldn't help. I should have bit my tongue. And anyway, two of my teammates were sitting at our table, Peter Minot and Bo Hamburger. So anyway, I went over to him and I said, "Mate, what was your problem today? That was just dangerous." And he's just stood up and pointed. I really don't like pointed and hit me in the chest. "You were my problem." So then it just escalated. Broken glass door, this guy threw it, and my son, you were coming down. It's me against 15 Portuguese guys. So it was, we both were almost on the point we're going to get expelled from the race, but staying in the race and became.
So you don't have as fond memories of Portugal then?
Not that particular guy. I do love Portugal. I think it's a great place and everything else, but it's just one of those, heated moments, and also heated incidents. But crosswinds, mate. It's a tough thing gigging those races in Spain.
My brother Rick is married to a Portuguese lady.
Skulls just said that if he has a sister-in-law that is Portuguese.
Well, there you go. And her parents have
Ryan
just moved
says,
out here.
if he had his tarts.
That was Dan. Hey, I never mentioned the word. That was you.
Tom says, "No doubt about it, Jones is a real connoisseur of Portuguese tarts." Oh, mate, I ate plenty of other things. And Wendy May Abbott says, "E-bike legal max speed is 25 kilometres an hour, Dan." Okay.
On a number plate, you can go 50 if you have the
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the stronger bikes and the new bikes that do 50, but you need to have a number plate on it. That's what they have here in Belgium, and you have to wear. You need to have a side.
Or you can illegally doctor it up, like I did with the Belgian guy.
You wouldn't do anything illegal, would you, John?
No, I didn't do it, but a guy did it for me. But when I had Godzilla on the Tour de France 3 years ago, and he doctored it up, and so it says you're doing 25k an hour, but you're actually doing 50.
You probably noticed the difference.
Yeah. And we're trying to promote rider safety, and here you are breaking the law with the e-bikes. You know, pull your head in, John. You can't have it both ways. Anyway, we'll move on. Hey, fantastic. What's that?
You can register them. They have to have a number plate to do 25.
Do they still have to register bikes in Belgium, like they did in my day, Scott?
It used to be like that in Switzerland, a lot of countries. Yeah, it's not anymore. You have to register them, but it used to be that way. Yeah, you're right. When I first came here, you need to have like a little.
That's it.
Tin plate thing that you had to have screwed onto the bike somewhere.
That's right. Yeah.
We asked you this last time before we wrap things up, Scotty. McVilly Velo wants to know what's the best bottle of Vino in the collection, Scott?
Which is just behind you by the look of it. Yeah.
No, that's grappas and whiskies and Genevas.
Gosh.
Okay.
Little spirit stuff there. The wine's over the other side of the room.
So our answer is what's your premium bottle of Vino, mate?
Who's that for me?
Yeah, Scotty.
That's for you.
Premium bottle?
I'm a big fan of the Piemonte area and the Barolo wines.
Nice. Yeah.
It's hard to pick one, to be honest, John. I'm a bit sort of moody in that way. I like whatever the mood's swinging, just do what I like. So pick a favourite or a go-to. Got wines that I drink regularly here at home. There's a Spanish wine museum wine that I really like at the moment. It sort of changes a little bit. It's like ice cream, mate. Different flavours, different months, sort of thing.
Mitchelton Heathcote Shiraz. We'll give Jerry a plug.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
Get around
it. You got so much spoiled for choice here in Europe, mate. It's so spoiled for choice. And Phil, you know it with all your travels. You know, you just get to drink something different. And I tend to, like, we're going to Italy next month for a break with my wife and I, and then we'd just be enjoying a lot of the wines from around the Tuscan area, you know.
Fabulous. Lovely. Oh, you're making me homesick again.
Yeah. All right, boys. It's been a great show. We've loved having you on. Special thanks to obviously you, Scotty.
We should have a pick. We haven't for the stage. We haven't really talked about who's going to win the stage. So we need.
Adam Yates. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Scotty.
I'm going to go for Dylan because Dylan was sort of like he wasn't going to hunt too aggressively to get into break, but he said he's definitely going to have a sniff around to go into break today. So I'll go for Dylan.
Oh, well,
I reckon. I've got a feeling a break will do it because if a break doesn't do it, I think Roglic will take his lead back, and they might not want it just yet.
Yeah,
I think Elisson's best hope of retaining is for a break to go. That's for sure.
Yeah,
because he's not going to take it up this hill. Although he's not a bad little climber on that sort of a climb. So pick anybody you like from a breakaway, I reckon. So I will. I don't know who to pick.
Chook Lotto. Back.
Hey, I always like to see Lotto do well. I quite like the way Lotto ride races. They're very
Well, there's been a Spaniard in every break, and they've been letting.
What about Aramburu? I like him. I like saying the name. So let's go for Aramburu.
Okay. Sounds a plan. All right. Thanks for joining us, fellas. Thanks again for everyone. I should have mentioned at the top of the show again. Forgot Johnny. YouTube.com/The Detour Podcast. Like, share, subscribe. We'll be back again tomorrow night at 6:30 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Thanks again, fellas. See you tomorrow. Ciao for now.
Thanks, guys.